Welcome to the stream, everyone. I'm sitting here getting a nice little massage. Relaxing on this Sunday. Let me know in the chats if I'm live and my stream's looking good. Let me just take this off. I might need that part way through the stream. We'll see. My connection was horsing up, so hopefully this is live. Let me know if this is looking good right now or if I'm pixelated. Killer Z, what's going on? Grout Daddy's in here. You showing me all types of tips and tricks in YouTube. Sue's back again. I remember you commenting quite a bit last time, Sue, on you hated how everyone didn't use open hi-hats in their beats. I remember that quite well. Killer Z, beats are reviewed at random, my friend. Unfortunately, that's just the way it goes. I can't really show favoritism. Audio and video is good. Beautiful. Let's do the one and only test. Hopefully it's going to be a big success. Let me quickly play this beat. All right, let me know whether that was sounding good. If so, we'll get this party started. We'll be going for 2 hours. Red Octane's in here. Eric is swell. Eric is swole, more like it. That guy's got muscles. AG's in here. Savs. Steven. He's got no E in his name there. Interesting. Internet Face. How's it going? Okay, so the audio's good. Like I said, we're going to go for 2 hours. You guys know the drill. Reviewing your beautiful beats. I'm going to put the keyword in the Discord. Instructions right over there. Maybe slightly quiet. I think that beat was just quiet as it was. What else was I going to say? The second to last stream that we'll be doing for some time, unless you're in the course, obviously. The first course stream is going to be a couple weeks after the course closes. So yeah, might as well just start. Let me pop in the keyword here. Here we go. First keyword coming right at us. Boom. It's in. Check the Discord. Let me know what your answer is. Yako's in here. Jocko. It's always nice to see him. And let me know how you guys are doing also, by the way, on this beautiful Sunday. I got my massage thing. Maybe I should put it on while we wait for your submissions. But yeah, hopefully you guys are doing good. I plan on eating chicken parm after the stream's done. So that's going to be something to look forward to. And I need a damn haircut. I don't have a Discord. That doesn't matter. You don't need a Discord. It can open up on your web browser. Just click the link in the description box below and it'll open up for you. Maserati Spook. Read the thing right next to me. All right. Here we go. Let's listen to the first beat we're going to listen to is Pixel's beat here. If you're here and you're in the chat, let me know what you guys think of these beats as well. It really does help me out to see what your guys' thoughts are, because sometimes I just miss out on certain things and you guys have good ears as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here we go. The first beat, drill. All right, that was Pixel's beat there, a drill type beat. We've got Doobie Beats saying this is very good. He's imagining a rapper on it. Mario Made It says needs more, but not bad. Grout says yes, it's gotten boring, too repetitive, unfortunately. So here's what my take on it is. Much like Casper and Imaz and some of the people in the chat said, I think part of the reason why a lot of people felt it was repetitive was because it was just pretty much the exact same note over and over again for the sample. And I'm thinking you did that because you wanted some variation between the verse and the hook, because during the hook you had that exact same sample or that same note play, and then you had a different note, so you had like a 2-note progression in your hook, but then you just used half of that and you repeated that over and over and over again for the verse, and that was your way of sort of creating a verse and a separate, more fleshed out idea for the hook. Unfortunately though, I think you probably would have been better off using that 2-note progression just for the verse as well. I think that's part of the reason why so many people felt it was repetitive. It was the exact same sample note playing over and over again, and there was no progression with the 808 either, which is a missed opportunity. If you have the exact same note playing over and over again with a sample, that gives you plenty of room to get a little bit more creative and melodic with your 808 pattern. Outside of the slides, just coming up with something that feels like more of a prolonged progression over like a 2-bar loop or 4-bar loop, like you can come up with something that's a little bit more complex than that. But again, you just had the same 808 play at the very beginning. Every single time you had that exact same sample play over and over and over again. So it just felt like the exact same thing repeating over and over. So I think that was somewhat of a missed opportunity there. Like some people in the chat said, the drums were nice. I also felt like your sound selection was nice. I enjoyed all the sounds that you chose to build out the beat. That's sort of cool. I'm not even sure what it was, that reverby. It almost sounded like a horn brass / vocal sample hybrid or something. I don't know what it was. Sounded cool. I like that additional synth that you layered on top during like the second half of the verse. But I think the big takeaway here was just the arrangement idea, and maybe you sort of went with this idea because you couldn't figure out a way to build out the hook in a bigger way. So it's sort of just pushed you and challenged you to try your best to keep the beat exciting and don't sort of hurt your verse section just because you want some variation remaining for the hook section. Like if the beat was made using what you did with a hook section, I think it would have just sounded a lot better and a lot less repetitive. And you'd have to at that point figure out a way to make your hook sound different, but that's part of the challenge. And that's sort of what I'd like to see this beat maker do, just step it up and try to be a little bit more audacious with all the different elements that you could push this beat to include. Hopefully you guys are feeling good. Karasama's in here. Azaka, Jocelyn Carter. All right. For some reason, people are putting favorite plugin. I'm asking you what your favorite plugin is so you can submit it. Some people like 3x oscillator. What are you thinking with that one? Let's go with this one here. A nice expand type of selection here. I enjoy expand. As many of you know, that's probably my #1 recommendation if you're just a beginning beat maker. You can find expand on sale routinely for like 10-15 bucks. I think it's probably the best deal that you can get. Anyways, this beat's called Diablo Inferno. Let's take a listen. Let me know in the chattas what you guys think of this beat. And hopefully you're having fun already. And who knows, maybe my shirt will come off this stream. I know I keep teasing it, but it's bound to happen eventually. Here we go. Oh, that was a short beat, very interesting. I think I know part of the reason why. I'm sorry to hear that you were sick, Karasama. I've also been feeling a bit under the weather. I don't know why. After the last stream, I was pooped for like 3 days. So Karasama says he liked the vibe. Internet face, fire emoji, Maserati spook. I like it. It's hard. So what I would say with this beat, it's only like a minute and a half. I think everything was really well put together. All the pieces were great, musically speaking, really nice sound selection. It sort of had a nice theme to it, the sort of Asian inspired beat. In terms of all the pieces and how they work together. Lots of different ideas in this beat, and I think all of them were executed well. But I think what I would say is that the arrangement to this beat was a bit frenetic, and I think that's part of the reason why this beat was only like a minute and a half, a minute 20 seconds. Don't be afraid to be repetitive. I think that's the main takeaway I would say with this beat. Like your verse section is going to be, for the most part, the same or similar type of idea over and over again for 16 bars, and then you'd go into your hook, and then you go back and forth. So it sounds like to me you have all the pieces here, like every single component that you made in this beat fit very well, and it was very well constructed. Just sort of take each piece, mix and match. I have a video on this concept called subtractive arrangement. That's an approach that you can take when you're trying to arrange your beat out to a full beat rather than just a loop. So maybe take that concept into mind and use that way of approach when arranging your beat out here, just because the way you've done it here, it's just like every 4 bars something new was coming in, the entire beat was sort of shifting around, and that's a great way to sort of infuse your own ideas constantly. But at that point, you're sort of just making this beat for yourself rather than if you wanted to use this for an artist. And obviously that's the approach or the mentality that I'm keeping in mind here. If you want to work with an artist, they're going to be like, I don't know what the hell to do with this beat because it's just shifting every 4 or 5 bars, or 4 bars, 8 bars. So yeah, just don't be afraid to be repetitive and make a choice in terms of what you want to be the main idea in your beat. That might be another reason why you just chose to sort of jump all over the place. You couldn't really figure out which parts you wanted to be the core of your beat. But nonetheless, that's a hard decision that you're going to have to make if you want this to be an actual usable production for an artist. Red Octane, yeah, that Juke Blocks by Dylan Tallchief. That's a useful tool. Rashid Reed. I'm not gonna mix a WAV file for you. What are you, nuts? All right, let's move on to the next beat. Someone's trying to get real sexy with me already. You know what? I've no more sexiness in this beat, guys. Antonio Nash. I don't think I've heard Antonio's beats before. He's got this BBC Symphony Orchestra. That's his favorite plugin. This Mozzie type beat, Keep a Hustle. Let's take a listen. right, that was a Mozzie type beat by Antonio Nash. So I think, what's the chat saying here? Solid Snake says like it. I saw some other people. The melody is cool. Needs to be filled out a bit more. Says Clothing Basic. Gage Towler's flirting with me. Very different. West Side type beat, asks Daniel. So I think there's a couple of things that you guys pointed out that I'd agree with. For one, Sue in the chat said this producer sounds like he's just starting, relatively speaking. So with that in mind, I'm not gonna go talk about some of the smaller details or maybe some of the things that would be a bit more advanced, like the mixing or whatever. We'll talk about some really basic things here. So for one, if Antonio, I would recommend watching a video I put out in January about the 5 red flags that most beat makers make. I think one of the things that I caught in this one is just there was no set drum pattern that you had in this beat. I think it's one of the harder things when you first start. You sort of want to be as creative as you are with your melodies and your chord progressions. You want to be just as creative with your drums. When you first start out, it's typically going to be a good idea to just be pretty straightforward and understand the structure and the rules of the genre that you're making and just stick with them for when you first start out. So yeah, I'd recommend watching that video and some of the more basic drum pattern videos just so you get a clear understanding of how a typical drum pattern should sound, and just being straightforward and strict with it, because there were some cool elements in this beat. I really did like, just like Jay Red said, he also said that he found that there's some good elements in this beat, and I sort of do agree. I did like the chord progression with the Fender Rhodes that you had in the beat. So there's some good things in there for sure. I think another thing that I'll sort of advise here, just like Grout mentioned, it sounded like there were multiple basses being used, and that's also something that you should probably somewhat stay away from when you first start out making beats. Don't use multiple bass tones, because typically you should only, it's just going to become a lot more difficult to manage what's going on in the low end if you do, because that's exactly what it sounded like was happening with your beat. There were some conflicting bass tones, and it was very, very apparent, because it's just so much easier to hear in the low end when that happens. So I'd recommend just sticking with one bass instrument or another and not having like multiple notes play at the same time in the low end. So yeah, those are my recommendations for Antonio Nash. Again, there's some nice ideas in here, and it definitely sounds better than what I was making when I first started. It's just small fundamentals like that you might want to sort of pay attention to, and be audacious once you've learned the rules and how to come up with a good solid loop. Bumbleclot, says Zachary Pop. A good reverb can turn a mediocre synth to something really cool. I agree. Cameron, he one of the better beatmaker members. But yeah, I agree for sure. Slapping on cool effects and stuff can really push straightforward, stocky sounding synths to sound really, really cool. How's it going, Super Inferno? All right, let's move on to, oh, it's 4:21, guys. We missed it by a minute. We could have been smoking mad reefer, but we're not gonna now. Tin Lee says FL Keys. He's trying to be a smarty pants. He's got this beat here. Instead of calling it piano beat, he's decided to call it Paino beat. There's gonna be a lot of pain in this beat. I can already feel it. So let's take a listen. I hope you guys are doing well. We're gonna go for a nice amount of time here. We just started the stream. So buckle in, grab your butts, here we go. Have a good night, Karasama. All right, that was Tin Lee's Paino beat. I could feel the pain in that beat. Jake Trotter says fire, but keys could sound a little fuller. The melody is insane, says Solid Snake. By the way, Metal Gear Solid's probably one of my favorite vid games as a young chap. I used to play that all the time. Fun little story, at one point I actually had the speedrunning record in the world for Metal Gear Solid 2. I was like 13 years old or something. It's really nice, says Dipnote. Alright, so I think I agree with a lot of people in the chats. Like Vivaldi says, simple, and it's just very effective. Really nicely put together beat. Also, I want to mention that some people complain about clipping. That's probably on my end. My stream is just junk, so if you hear some clipping happening, it's not in the beat. I didn't hear any clipping on my end, so yeah. Very well put together beat. I really don't have anything to say in terms of negativity. Like, it was very well put together and simple and effective. The drum pattern was great. There were obviously different arrangements done to this beat where the beat got a little bit bigger during the hook. He had a couple of those extra instruments in. Sounded like you used the Tron flute from Omnisphere, perhaps. I'm not sure whether I got that one right. By the way, my record was on extreme difficulty setting. That's how cool I am, guys. So yeah, I think it was very, very well put together. If I had one small little thing to say, just like Eric as well said in the chat, maybe making use of the space could have been a good idea. So I noticed those additional sounds that you added into the beat were somewhat dry. So if you just like played around with delays and reverbs, have them sit in a sort of different space, that might be a small little detail that you might want to add in, but nonetheless, don't feel like that's a big negative in this beat. That was just a small little thing that I might want to experiment with and see if that could help. This was very, very well put together. Tin Lee, you sound like you know what you're doing, so good job. I hope to hear more of your beats, my friend. Sharp Vision says, really like that one. Need to play the old ones. I actually played the Game Boy one, the Ghost Babel. I actually remember beating that one as well. By the way, Metal Gear Solid 4 and 5 stink and tarnished the reputation of my reputation, I'll say. Alright, so people are still asking the instructions. Instructions are right there for the beat submissions. We're going to move on to the next keyword now. Let's go into the Discord. And I submitted my music, but it's too large for Yahoo. Are you sending me like your whole album or something? Are you Chris? Alright, so next question. Next keyword is going to be like so. Bingo, bango, bongo. That's the next keyword. And while we let those roll in, let me just let you guys once again know, I'm going to be repeating this a few times during the stream. This is going to be one of the last streams that I'm going to be doing for some time because, as you guys may know, my course just came out this last week, and I'm going to be doing streams exclusively for course members. So if you haven't heard, the course is dedicated to helping people become better beat makers. Just like I do with these streams here, I've sort of picked up and identified on what the most common problems are when most people make beats. A lot of the big struggles, even after asking people on my YouTube what they struggle with, whether it be picking the right sounds for their beats, learning how to add in sounds, learning what to play, how to play better melodies that fit inside of their beat, how to choose the right drum sounds, the best drum patterns, all these problems that so many producers have, how to turn their loops into full beats. I basically made an entire course dedicated to helping you guys come up with solutions to every single one of those problems. So if you take a look at my course curriculum, I have the starting a beat section where we start off with how to make your own loops, how to sample better, how to pick better loops. And then we move on to building a beat, so how to add drums, drum patterns, how to pick the right bass, come up with bass patterns, how to add sounds into your beat that work. Then we move on to arranging a beat out, so that is how to turn a loop into a full beat, and like the technique or the overall approach and strategy that you can take to basically take any loop and figure out how to make it into a full beat no matter what you're using, and sort of break down like the fundamental philosophy of arranging. Then we have finishing a beat. This is something that all of us struggle with. You wake up the next morning, you listen back to that beat that you were loving the night before, and you think, where the hell did that beat go? Because this beat just sounds like a completely different beat and I don't like it. Usually it's like one or two problems in your beat that if you just changed, it would basically make it exactly like how you wanted it to. And I sort of walk you guys through the most common problems, that's sort of the small little mistakes that are in your beat. Like if you just switch it up a tiny bit, the beat would just sound so much better. And then I have a mixing area. I have taken mixing and mastering courses myself in person, going to studios. I've sat with multiple mixing engineers, spent thousands of dollars and countless hours with them. And so, yeah, I've condensed everything I've learned with mixing and mastering, put it all into that section. And I have some bonuses as well. So if you guys want some free drum sounds, free loops, samples, and as well there's a section on marketing, so I showed you guys how I grew my own YouTube channel and how you can grow yours if you want to sell beats. I have an SEO cheat sheet, so I give you guys the top 1,000 keywords that you should be using if you want to sell beats. It's the exact same tool that I used to build my own YouTube channel that has almost 50,000 subscribers in the year and a half I've been doing it. And yeah, you can use it to grow your own bass as well. So betterbeatmaker.com if you're interested. It's in the description box below. You are all beautiful cuties for letting me sit here and tell you about this. And also what I'm going to be transitioning to after this is that I'm going to be doing beat challenges with my course members. So I'm going to force them to make specific types of beats that adhere to very limited sorts of sounds and BPMs and whatnot. It's just a great way to push people into out of their comfort zones. So yeah, betterbeatmaker.com. It closes in 3 days, so make sure you join because it's not going to open up again for a while, and when it does, it's going to be at a higher price. And if you don't want to pay for it all right now, there is a 4-month plan, so you can break down the payments into 4 months for all the boys that got bills and need a little help from Papa. So yeah, you can do that. Again, thank you guys for letting me speak. So let's listen to a Duke Nukem type beat by the young man Cameron. Did I say Caramone the first time? I'm dyslexic. Cameron, he's in Better Beat Maker. So you know what? If you want to join the Discord, talk to him, talk to some of the other members to see if they like it, get an unbiased opinion. Obviously, I'm going to think it's a good idea to join, but if you want an opinion from someone who is in the course and isn't me, he's one of them. So yeah, you can ask him. Here we go. All right, that was Cameron's beat there. Nice chill beat, nothing bad, says Josip. Sav says, I don't know about the shaker, but it's really good. KC, this is the type of beat where a small change in the bass note can create huge differences in harmonics. It's an interesting point. Solid Snake asks how much the course is. Just head over to the website. You can look at the different plans available there. So what I would say about this beat, I think it's really cool. I really liked how ethereal it was. There's some nice textures in this beat. It sounded like Cameron wanted a very sort of nighttime chill aesthetic. Did that to a T. I think you did a really good job of not getting overly complex just for the sake of it. With your melodic layers, you had sort of two-layer approach with the verse section, where you had like the lower bellish sounds, and then you had the sounds sort of in the higher register. I think you did a good job of not going overboard and like adding tons and tons of different notes. You had one layer that was a little bit more simplistic, another layer that was a little bit more complex, and it worked perfectly. Like there was enough space in this beat to the point where I could definitely see an artist use it. Everything was well balanced. You had a lot of different interesting percussion sounds in the beat, sort of a unique, cool hi-hat pattern. I'd really love to hear how this beat would sound after it's mixed, because it was a bit quiet on my end. I'm not sure why. And so half the battle might be to get this to... Actually, I don't think this beat would be too difficult to get it to sound loud and good, because everything sounds, in terms of the sound selection that you chose and where everything sat, I think it would pretty easily be mixable and sound great. So yeah, Pixelicious, very good beat, very good, very catchy, says Greg Mack. Yeah, I don't really have anything to say other than I'd like to hear this sound a little bit louder. Maybe that could help me pick up some things that I could point out. But as of right now, I really enjoyed this beat. Good job to Cameron. Like to see my team winning. Mr. Chief, not Master, Mr. Noah Damerge, hopefully I said that right. Let's listen to his Choir Revenge beat. I've never been a big Xbox boy, but I'll choose Mr. Chief nonetheless, because I believe in equal opportunity. Quickly cut in here, AG, you mentioned the 20% UK VAT. Someone in my chat told me if you change your PayPal's thing to the location to like a different one, you can avoid VAT. Yeah, Grout said someone said something about VAT before, but yeah, you might want to look into that. Just changing your location in your PayPal account to something else. Uh-oh, did I ruin this beat? Why is it not playing? Let me quickly reopen it. Okay, that was Noah's beat there, a choir revenge beat. Good night to Kemi. He's got exams tomorrow. I hope and pray that he does well. NYC Songman, do the beats have to be trap drill? No, I will listen to anything and everything. I enjoy different weird genres all the time. Sue says it doesn't matter if your drums are knocking hard or what. If your melody is not inspired and communicating as well, it's still going to sound empty. That's a very interesting point. Drum pattern is nice. Melody needs change, I feel, says Daniel. Thankfully, AG has been able to figure that out. What I will say with this beat, I think I share what a lot of you guys are thinking. That choir sound was a bit overbearing in the beat. So Sue brought up a good point that I sort of didn't even think about. The melody didn't really convey any emotion, and that was like the main centerpiece of the beat. And it was just sort of the same note playing over and over again. It didn't really emote anything. It didn't really feel like it was getting across any sort of feeling to me, at least. And I get the sense that a lot of people sort of felt the same, because that's sort of what the problem was. As well, it was very repetitive. That's probably part of the reason why there was just like no progression. There was no direction that sound went in that had me feel a certain way. It was just sort of the same thing over and over again. So I think that's one of the problems. I think doing something with the progression, creating some type of progression with that choir, if you're going to keep it in, would have helped. I think also it was just very overbearing in the mix. So if you wanted to keep it how it was, reducing the amount of notes would have been an idea, just so it's not playing every single, I don't know whether it was like an eighth step. However often you had it playing, maybe reducing that and being a little bit more deliberate, so there's only like 4 stabs per loop instead of like the 16 that you had here, I think. So that might be an idea, so that can sort of solve 2 birds with 1 stone, or kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You can go a long ways in reducing how overbearing that choir sound was, and also if you just change some of the notes around, it can just start to feel like it's actually doing something in the beat. So yeah, that was sort of my big thing. It was hard to even Trent Lee says very empty and repetitive, not very catchy. Yeah, so I think the big culprit here was that choir sound. So just take it, sort of play around with it, make adjustments, try to see how it feels. If there's a lot less stabs, maybe prolong the notes so there aren't stabs. Maybe play around with introducing some type of progression so it's not just the same note over and over again. These are all different things that you can do. So how long is the stream? It is going to go for probably another hour and a half. Can we skip the line by donating? No, you cannot. There is no donating on this stream, because what's going to happen is I'm going to be incentivized to get through as many as I can and give substandard advice, which I absolutely do not want to do. So let's listen to Ty Leader's beat. He likes Ghost from Modern Warfare 2. Dream or Why You Gotta Do Me Like That. You know what? Let's let the chat decide. Slap in 1 if you want to hear Dream. Slap in 2 if you want to hear Why You Gotta Do Me Like That. Personally, I want to hear, you know what? I don't want to influence you guys. Slap a 1 or a 2 in the chat. Let me know. Actually, I remember reading something on Reddit recently where some guy was complaining about someone's stream about how he donated to skip the line, and the person just like listened to 20 seconds of the beat and was just like, turn the volume up, and then they moved on to the next one, just took their money. And I was like, oh, that's exactly what I don't want to happen. All right, looks like 2 is the winner. I think that was my choice as well, because I want to see what this producer is going to do if someone does do him like that. And this is going to be the musical explanation of what is going to happen if you try to do something like that to him. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but let's listen. All right, that was Ty Leader. Zio says way too many kicks, but I like the idea. Mercy says switch up was cool, but too busy and the chops were lame, but I see where he was going, or where this was going. Kick type beat, says Faith. I like the vocals, says Trent Lee. I like how this sounds though, says Eric. Interesting divisive beat here. There were elements of it that I actually really did like. The very first half, it was very minimal and very unique sounding, but at the same time it sort of worked. I could hear the beat and it sort of did have a vision. It was somewhat like Kanye-esque in terms of like how his production would go off of that what was the album, Ye? He just have a very minimal setup, and then the beat would go into something a little bit more unique. So I think that was sort of the intention here, and I sort of did think it worked to a certain degree in the very beginning. The low end was very like distorted and very big, and that sort of worked because there was just very little going on with the drums. And the vocal chops were very divisive. Some people liked them, some didn't. I sort of liked them. It's sort of, again, is somewhat Kanye-esque to me with his recent production. But just like what many people said, once the drums came in, that's when the problems arose. Just way too many kicks, and the drums were just very, very loud and in your face. And the beat, the sort of intention or the idea of the beat work just completely shifted. It was no longer this sort of unique minimal beat. It sort of became a very disjointed clashing of sort of textures where these huge overbearing drums came in, and yeah, it just didn't really fit with the motif of what the beat was building up to before that. Again, I sort of did like the sound selection. That synth at the end was kind of cool. But yeah, just the second half of the beat, it just sort of fell off. Maybe the producer didn't know what to do. Cat's beat says somewhat repetitive. Maybe that's why. And so he sort of just wanted to infuse a completely new feel to it. Sort of didn't really work to me just because part of the reason why there's just so much kicks. Mr. Lonely says he treated the kick like a hi-hat. Yeah, that's not what you want to do. By the way, Mr. Lonely, you asked, do I stream often? This is actually going to be the second last time I stream in a while. The last time is going to be on Sunday because, like I mentioned, I put a course out recently, and I'm going to be doing streams exclusively with course members because I'm going to be setting up beat challenges instead of just streams. So, yeah, today we're going to do this stream for another hour and a bit, and then we're going to do another stream on Wednesday because that's the day my course closes. Eric Guerrero, Ellie from The Last of Us. So let's take a listen to this beat. I hope you guys are doing well. And while I have you here, I'm just going to say you guys are brave boys. Thank you for submitting your beats. I know I say this often, but it bears saying. It's very scary to submit your beats, especially when you know I'm going to be criticizing them and pointing out things that could be improved. You might feel like a little bit of a jerk. You might feel like a little bit of a buffoon, a clown at times if the chat doesn't like your beat. But nonetheless, even if that is the case, you put your music out there and you sought out improvement and help, and you're ahead of like 95% of the people who just sit there and keep their beats on their hard drives because they're too afraid to put themselves out there. So that in itself is something that you deserve to be congratulated on. So I want to say I'm proud of you brave boys for submitting your beats. Voila. Can non-course members contribute to the beat challenge? Unfortunately, not, my love. This is something that's exclusive for course members because I just want to focus on basically course members. They paid money to join the course, so I want to make sure I give them as much attention as I can, and that's one of the ways I plan on doing so. Did I listen to that beat? I almost skipped over it. Sorry, Eric. That would have been very annoying. So let's take this Winter on the Metro. Eric is swole, swelly, swell, swell. Okay, the beat's already over. That was Eric Guerrero's beat. The kick is weird, says Kenny. Dissonant indeed. Melody feels weird. So, interesting beat here. A really unique idea. So right off the bat, I applaud the beat maker on that front. Very unique textures that were used here, and the sort of drum pattern, especially at the very beginning, like the frenetic hi-hats, just really sounded cool, and they really worked together because it was good mixing and matching of different textures that all fit the same aesthetic. And I sort of feel like the sample is the same way. I sort of really do understand what this producer was going for. This is a dope 90s beat if the kick and snare came in harder, says Casey. So I think Avernalism sort of encapsulates my feeling. There's a good idea in here, but it's very out of tune. Thank you, Xander. Course is open and it's great. I'm glad you're liking it. I think, yeah, I'm not sure whether it was a sample that was used and you sort of just pitched it to the point where it's somewhere in between semitones. And so when you started to add your own sort of sounds from synths and soft synths, that sort of created dissonance and you couldn't really figure out why that was happening. Or whether you forgot to clean up a lot of the low end of the sample and you just sort of did whatever you wanted and you sort of added your own bass in. I'm not exactly sure because I'd have to look at the project file, but nonetheless, those are two things that you might want to look out for. If your sample has low end and you're adding in your own bass, you're going to want to make sure that you clean out and remove the low end frequencies from the sample, because otherwise this is what's going to happen. Or if you used a sample and you sort of landed somewhere in between semitones or cents, if you change the pitch and it's something like 450 cents or something, it's going to be hard to add sounds on that fit because your beat is like a main part of your beat is not in key with anything else at that point. So yeah, I really do think there is a good idea in here, though. I really did think that there is a unique idea and vision behind this beat. I think it was just something small as like that sort of hurt the idea. Excellent pattern, poor execution. Yeah, so I would say try to look at those few things that I mentioned there and try to address them, see if that helps. I'm pretty sure it will. Wave Candy video would be really helpful for this beat. I think Xander gave you some good advice there. Thank you, Xander. Swiss Beats says, course is very nice. I saw all the videos and got more motivation to create beats. Excellent. Hopefully you got some knowledge as well. What happens if someone comes up and you can't watch the stream if your beat's reviewed? Huh? Eric as well. Oh, it was your beat. Glad to give you the advice. And yeah, really cool idea. I think you have a unique vision. I'd like to hear some more of your beats, but it sounds like you have a very particular, unique aesthetic. And that in itself is something that you want to make sure you keep. And you don't just go to making guitar type beats, because those are not allowed on this channel. Let us go to another keyword. What's a good question to ask you little rascals? Here we go. You know what? First person to answer this keyword question with the answer that is true for me, I'm going to listen to their beat, guaranteed. The first person to give the answer to that keyword question. My hand gestures remind you of Joji. Is that the guy that wears like that red suit everywhere? I don't know who Joji, or is he that sad guy? Is that the same person? I don't know what you young babies are watching on the YouTube nowadays. Can I send a guitar type beat? You can, but it will end up in the garbage. Donald Duck is Face's first guess. That is not correct. That is not my favorite cartoon character. Good try. I know I asked for your guys's, but I'm looking for... Raphael says Lola Bunny. Is that true for the new one as well? Homer Simpson. SpongeBob. I do enjoy some SpongeBob myself. Oh, we got a winner. Eric Rachel. Oh, that's another course member right here. Big Eric. He selected Bugs Bunny. You got it. Bugs Bunny was my favorite growing up. And also Daffy. I would have accepted Daffy as well. Anyways, let's listen to Eric's beat here. Hype, 166 BPM. And then I'll listen to the rest of you guys' beats as well. Here we go. All right, that was Eric's beat there, Harmider from my Discord, a Better Beat Maker member. Always like to see the squad coming out, supporting the stream. Straight Fire says Thrill Boy, solid 10 out of 10, says Salim. Grout says he liked the leads. K-Beat says, can anyone submit? Anyone can submit. Just follow the instructions right there. Xander says, really cool, but the vocal chops aren't for him. Sound design is good. All right, so what I would say with this beat is great attention to detail. There's just a lot of small things going on in the beat, a lot of layers added, and the great thing is everything really worked well together. Good use of space. Everything had its own sort of fit, and everything didn't get, or nothing got in the way of anything else really. It's hard to judge what the intention is with this beat, Harmiter or Eric. What this feels like it could easily be, like a lot of people in the chat said, he could put that on TV like DJ Lanta said. It's a sync beat. I would agree 100%. If that is your intention, then I think you did a good job. If this was sort of more in the vein of wanting to make this something more viable for an artist, take your shirt off. What I would say is that there's obviously going to be a little bit too much going on. There's too much change-ups happening. But again, this is only with the idea of you wanting to work with an artist. If this was inherently a piece of music that's supposed to stand on its own, I think you did a good job in that sense. A couple of people in the chat said somewhat repetitive. I think what I would say is, with this is a beat that is meant to be used on its own. Something that I found helped me with the video game music that I made, it was somewhat in the vein of this. We're supposed to be really high energy and sort of on its own. I wanted to make a hype beat right out the gate. So what I would say is you definitely did achieve that idea of hype. It does exist in this beat. I would say though that in order to create hype and get people hype, I think one of the reasons why some people in the chats feel like it was repetitive is because that level of hype was constantly sustained. Playing around with certain parts of your beat being low energy, I know you sort of did that with the sweeps, but even just like in terms of the overall arrangement, just making things a little bit more minimal and sort of getting the drums out of the way and just sort of basically creating like a roller coaster feel of the beat where you have this sort of high, and then you come down, then you sort of come into this sort of area of the beat that's a little bit more of a lull, then you bring it right back up again. I think with this beat, it was very consistent at a high level and it had a few small dips here and there, but I think if you wanted to make a hype type beat, playing around with the arrangement and sort of having more ups and lows that are a little bit more extreme might be something that you can try. Savs, what games have I scored? I did a couple of projects. Some of them didn't make it to light, but the one that did, this video game called My Friend Pedro. But yeah, nonetheless, I would say really good job. Like you said, you wanted to make a hype type beat. I think you have all the components in this beat well produced. Everything is well put together. Don't be afraid to bring the hype down just so you can bring it back up later on and really get people back into it. If you watch like a DJ set, that's what they always do. They sort of have this part of the beat where things get a little bit more calm and they sort of lull the crowd and then right back into it. So yeah, there we go. Eric, good job. Good job. Let's Sergey's beat here. He's a fan of Squidward. I'm an enjoyer of Squidward as well. He's got this Super Kalbasa beat. Let's dive in, take a listen. Short beat there by Sergey. Interesting beat. So Sergey went for a very unique idea with his percussion sounds there. I think that was very audacious, and I liked it. It got a little bit sort of got a little bit repetitive by the end, but then he did that sort of switch up, and I think that was really cool. I really did like the second half where it started to come together and sound like a actual beat. Unfortunately, did cut off. There were parts that weren't really working at that section though. Like Grout says, the stabs are out of tune. So I think musically speaking, you might need to make some adjustments on that front. Jungle type beat. Yeah, it's a really interesting clash of styles there, because I sort of got like a jungle type of feel to that percussion loop. It had a sort of lounge music type of feel to that sort of swelling synth that came in and out. DK Jungle at Night. Very cool mishmash of different styles. And I really do like Sergey's direction in terms of like just putting different ideas together. I think just there were just a few instruments that were sort of out of tune. But again, this beat was only like less than a minute, so it's hard to really give it a full shake. So I would say keep up this sort of style of just like multiple genres in one. It's really unique, but you still sort of need to make sure that everything makes sense musically speaking, and that you have the right notes playing. Unfortunately, I can't really give too much criticism there because it was a very short beat. I don't really feel like I heard enough to sort of dive deep in. Bryson A, Daffy Duck with 4 Ds. Let's take a listen. Jajaba 137. Here we go. By the way, I should keep track of these funny comments that you guys say, because every once in a while, you guys have a description for a type beat that makes me laugh. Hydra Stick says flirting with an ugly girl type beat. I don't even know what that means, but it made me laugh. right, that was Bryson's beat there. Now you guys are going too overboard with your type beat jokes. I should have never said anything. Yeah, really nice storytelling type beat, a love story type of beat. A type of beat that makes you want to kiss on someone's neck. Good job of sampling. This sounds like a sample to me. I think you did a good job of sort of building around the sample. I'm not sure whether the strings in this beat are your own or whether they're part of the sample, but nonetheless, everything felt fluid. It didn't feel very choppy and very blocky and like very disjointed. Everything's felt smoothly tied together. And I think you did a great job with not overcomplicating and constantly smashing the chops and the different keys just for the sake of it. And it really did tie everything together. I think I don't really have much to say in terms of a criticism. I think the high end was kind of missing, but I think that's more so just a mixing issue. It did sound like you had hi-hats and shakers in the beat. It's just a lot of the high end might have just been rolled off. So if you just, boost some of the high end from the sample, some of the high end from the drums, that might help make the beat sound a little bit more present, but unless you don't want to overdo it and make things sound way too polished and bright. Compositionally, yeah, it's really well put together. I would have liked to hear something be a bit more something that feels like more of a hook, adding more layers that are your own, which is something that's really difficult when you're sampling. So if you are a producer who does go for sampling, you did a good job on that front. It sounds like you are skilled when it comes to sampling. So if so, I would say I would push you to try to learn how to add sounds on top of the sample that work and still feel like they add into the beat and don't feel disjointed. Because as a sampler myself, that is one of the skills that can really help you take your production to the next level. And so that's what I would try to ask you to do. So yeah, I think this is missing the high end. I think missing the high end makes this beat. I get what you're saying. Yeah, I guess this is personal taste. I do like that it is a little bit grimier. It's not completely clean and polished. I don't want this thing to sound like a pop record. That's why I sort of just alluded to just maybe a slight boost in the drums and a slight boost in the sample just to bring a little bit more presence to the high end. I don't want a huge shift with a mix. It's just a small little adjustment maybe. All right, let's keep on keeping on. I don't know who this is. Blue in Foster's Imaginary House. So this must be a young person because I have no idea what this is. So I want to keep in touch with the youngsters. I want them to think I'm a real cool dude. So let's listen to this beat here. Oh, it's Hydrostick's beat. All right, that was Hydrastick's beat there. He was the guy coming up with those humorous type beat memes in the chat, but he seems to have disappeared. I don't know where he went. Someone said something funny in the chat. They said I'm like their dad because I skip all their emails. That was funny. So I think a lot of people picked up on just way too much on the high end on that synth. I saw Grout, Low Z10, Yako, and a few others also pick up on that, and that was the first thing that jumped out to me. Pixilus also picked up on something that sort of didn't immediately jump out to me until he said it, so it was a good job on him. There were no mids in this beat, and I think that was another somewhat of an issue with this beat. The full array of the frequency spectrum was not filled. So I think that's something that needs a little bit work. But I think the biggest thing here is just the variation in the arrangement was not enough, I would say. He had that same loop play over and over and over again. And then you just sort of use these small tricks like dropping the beat down or just adding a little bit of a filter sweep to create variation. And I think those are good techniques, just like I said in the last stream, where those are good variations to introduce those types of instances in your beat if you're like in the middle of a verse section and you just want to do a short little switch up. But you sort of do need to build more deliberate arrangements and different sections in your beat for the hook. And if you want to include a bridge, I sort of think these types of techniques don't constitute for a good arrangement in your beat. There was a section in the beat where you just sort of pitched all the synths down like one semitone or something, and you got to make sure that when you do that and you choose new notes, they still do work with the old the actual main idea of your beat, and they sort of didn't do that here. It was very detached. So yeah, I would say those are a few things that you need to look out for. You sort of had this one main idea and then you just slapped on a bunch of different small novel arrangement switch ups, but it wasn't really made enough to make the beat feel interesting. I think there is somewhat of an idea in here, that sort of ethereal synthy type of beat is somewhere in there, but I think you sort of needed to push the beat a little bit more and push yourself to try to add more layers and more different ideas into this beat and different pieces into this beat as well, so you can build out different sections, because it just felt like you came up with the drum loop, you had this sort of synth loop that you came up with, and then you went straight away right to arranging. I think you need to just sit in the creation phase a little bit more here, try to add more different layers, play around a little bit more, and don't jump the gun saying, okay, I got the minimum amount of layers that I need here, I'm going to go right away to arranging and get this beat done. This is sort of the reason why I sort of don't like this idea where people say, I want to make my beats in 20-30 minutes flat, and they just sort of rush. Something that I picked up from watching Modern Family, this is a Navy SEALs quote, but the idea is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And the idea behind that, or what that means, at least to me, is that if you want to get fast at something, you want to get very efficient at something, the way to do that is to start off slow. So you want to be very slow, very deliberate, and very hands-on, and try to take things one step at a time. And so as you do this, you're obviously going to face a lot of obstacles, a lot of hurdles. You're going to try to figure out solutions to different problems that get in your way. And as you do this more and more, your process is going to start to get smoother and smoother, where you're going to start to face very common problems, where you're going to think, I already know the solution to this. If I add this type of sound in here, or if I switch this type of sound to this one, you're going to start to smoothen out your process. And in smoothing out your process, that's how you start making things in a little bit more faster, and that's how you sort of get that end result of, I want to make beats in this short amount of time. And so that's sort of the reason why I don't like the idea of challenging people to make beats in 30 minutes flat, because this is the type of thing that happens where you sort of don't pay attention to your obstacles. You don't pay attention to the problem solving that's required to make a beat. You just sort of gloss over them, you skip over them, you say, well, I'm just going to figure out another way to do this, and it's just not going to be the optimum solution, nor is it going to actually help you build more skills. So slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Keep that in mind, guys. Don't feel this pressure to want to make beats in 20-30 minutes flat. In my opinion, that's only something that's valuable if you want to become, if you're in the space of being an industry producer, you got your connections already set up, and you're sort of in this ecosystem where you have a bunch of rappers already in your address book, and you're just sort of firing off beats constantly, and you're sort of playing the quantity game. Don't feel like you have to be there. That's something that you should be trying to focus on. Once you have the ability to make beats and you're able to problem solve really quickly, you understand what you're doing, maybe like a few years down the road, if you're just starting, that's maybe when you want to start to get into that mindset. But when you're first starting off, don't do it. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. I'll repeat that again. All right, let's do a new keyword here. What should I do next? Oh, I did not spell that one right. New keyword is in. You guys get in there. Let's listen to those beats, and while you're submitting, I will once again let you guys know my new course is out, as you can see below. It's only going to be open for another 3 days. Once it does reopen later on, that's going to be some time from now, and it's going to be more expensive. So if you struggle with making beats and you don't know what you're doing wrong, and you come to these streams constantly looking for someone to analyze what you're doing wrong and figuring it out, your problems are not that unique. I commonly see the exact same problems done over and over again, and that's what this course is all about. I address the problems that many beat makers have during the entire beat making process. So if you struggle with coming up with your own loop, sampling better, picking better loops, picking drum sounds that actually work, making the best drum pattern possible for your beat, adding in sounds into your beat that actually work if you're using loops or samples, how to take your short little loop and make it into a full beat that actually does have different sections in it, like a hook and a bridge and an intro. I sort of break down how to do that. And yeah, how to mix and master, how to market your beats. Many different free drum sounds come with the course. Sample pack comes with the course, as well as access for life. Once you're in for life, and you'll get access to everything that I'm going to be including going forward into the future. More videos, more free samples, more drum packs. Those are all going to get sent out. Plus access to the secret Better Beatmaker area, where the live streams are going to go from here on, because this is going to be one of the last ones that I do, at least routinely, for everyone on my YouTube. So yeah, betterbeatmaker.com. Head over there now. There's two different pricing options. You can split it out over 4 months. Yeah, and feel free to reach out to me if you guys have any questions. I knew someone was going to have this disgusting answer, so we'll just go ahead and listen. None is the answer by Tomelius. 2006. If he's born in 2006, this young chap is 15 years old. Listen, if you want the girls to dance with you at the prom, put some deodorant on, alright? Here we go. Discordant is the beat's name. All right, that was Camelius, his beat there. The bass gets all the attention, says Fur. Smelly armpit type beat for sure, says Internet Face. Basically, the bass is taking over the beat. Stankin', that was really good. Did I just break my pen? No. It's a pretty solid beat. It really fills up the space needed with the perks. So I really like this beat. I have a soft spot for really aggressive beats, as you may have noticed with some of the beats I make on my YouTube. Very dark and aggressive. That's a route that I commonly like to go down. And that's exactly what this beat was. I think this beat did a really great job. This beatmaker did a really great job of filling up space, just because this beat was, as you guys heard, very aggressive, and this beatmaker did a great job of pursuing that and using the constant 808. And he also had that percussion loop in the back. That was a really smart way of filling up space and adding a unique element into the beat. Obviously, if this was just an 808 and drums, this beat would have gotten boring really quickly. But the sort of unique sort of loop with a percussion loop that he used, I'm not sure whether it was just a raw percussion loop. It sounded like there was like a tiny vocal sample in there as well. Nonetheless, that was really smart and is a really great way to introduce character and uniqueness into the beat. Really spot on there. The only thing I have to say with this beat is I would have liked for those additional elements to be brought up a tiny bit more. It was sort of hard to hear what was happening with that percussion loop, so what I might have done is just add a little bit of well, you know what, I'm just going to say bring it up in terms of volume, and also the smaller textures that you included during like the hook. You had this sort of blaring synth or blaring alarm type of sound. It felt very, very back, a little bit too far back in the beat, so just bringing that up and maybe peeling the reverb off a tiny bit. Nonetheless, though, really love this beat. It might not be for everyone, but for me, I enjoy. Oh, there's Tommy Boy. He's 15. Yeah, I mean, the fact that he's 15 and making a beat like this is really, really impressive, I gotta say. Keep up the good work, Tommy, but please do put on deodorant. I really enjoy. I made this beat inspired by one of mine or someone else in the chat. That would be interesting, because I really love this beat and I can really feel that connection with you, Tommy. You know what? I'm gonna stop using deodorant too to support Tommy. That's what we're gonna do. A lot of people enjoy Dove. That's surprising. I didn't know Dove was such a popular deodorant. This is very illuminating. Degree. We got a lot of Axe people. You know what? Let's listen to Schmidt's deodorant. I've never even heard of this. What the hell is Schmidt's deodorant? All right, Nico Taylor's beat. He's got this dollar store brand deodorant. Maybe it's like a baller ass deodorant. It could go either way. I'm going to believe this is a baller ass deodorant that Nico wears. My voice is fading out, so let's take a listen to this beat. All right, that was Young Nico, his beat there. I think a lot of people are picking up on what I also agree with. The kick and basically everything in the low end typically should be left in mono. Maybe you're trying to be a fancy cutie boy here, but yeah, like Graz says, kick doesn't hit unless it's in the front. Same thing with the bass. You typically just want to keep everything down in the center. And if you do want to play with like stereo presence, doing so in an equal fashion, like taking and doing so with just the higher frequencies of those sounds, that's fine. So just taking a stereo width of those sounds and bringing them to both sides instead of just one or the other, that's something you can play with. But the way it was done here, I think it just doesn't ever work out. So yeah, just want to mono all this stuff in the low end. What I would also say is that there are good elements in this beat, just like some people in the chat said. I would have added a little bit more reverb to that main loop to have it fill up a little bit more space. But I think a big way that this beat could be improved is adding a little bit more rhythmic variation. So with the main sample, it had a note on every single 16th note. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the hi-hat was doing the exact same thing. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so just taking the hi-hat, because I'm going to assume that the loop is sort of fixed and that it's an actual wave file, taking the hi-hat and just not going for a 1, 2, 3, 4 type of pattern and playing around with a hi-hat and building a little bit more rhythmic variation into the beat could help. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say for this beat. It sounds like this might be earlier on in your career, so I'm not going to get stuck on like mixing and whatnot too much. But I think those are some of the things that jumped out to me. If you find you have this sort of feeling where there's too much predictability and sort of repetitiveness in your beat, some of the times it can be because that issue where just everything is just melodic or rhythmically at the exact same pace as everything else. And to some extent, you do want different elements in your beat to do different things with different types of timing. So yeah, that's what I'll say with that beat. There are definitely ideas that I liked. I really did actually like that cool main loop sound in this beat. It was a really cool selection. It was yeah, kudos to Nico on that. Someone says, fuck deodorant, I'm with Tommy. You guys are disgusting. Let's listen to Baldo's beat here. He's got anti-smell deodorant. That sounds like some sort of no-name product. Something that's very deliberate. Here's an anti-smell deodorant. Here we go. Baldo's beat and Dear Vibe, A major. Here we go. right, that was Baldo's beat there. Interesting idea. It's very ethereal. I sort of like the sound selection. Everything was picked very deliberately. I think he went for that sort of aesthetic, and he succeeded there. Supernova says the vocal samples were a bit repetitive. I didn't mind them too much just because they only showed up in the hook, and so that was cool to me. Kyle says cool. I like it. 808 needs work though, says Supernova. I think my big thing that I'll say to throw my opinion in, Grits mentioned something to the effect of the melody being a bit jumbled. I think what I would say is, in terms of the sound selection, everything that you chose was very prolonged, and everything really sat in its own space, like in the exact same space, sorry. So pretty much every single sound that you built was very ethereal, very reverby, and everything just sort of ended up sort of mashing and blurring together, and nothing really felt like it was distinguished. So this is one of the things that I mentioned in my course, where if you have a bunch of instruments that are very prolonged, have a very long sustain time like you had here, a good idea is to pair and include a sound in the beat that's a little bit more plucky, something that has a very sharp attack and then sort of just really tapers off really quickly. And that's how you get a nice balance and build a little bit more tangibility into the beat, because with this beat here, everything felt very floaty and, like Grit said, a little bit too jumbled. And so grabbing something like, and depends on the actual preset, but like a harp sound or a piano, something that has a very sharp attack and then just sort of quickly tapers off, as opposed to like something like a flute or something like an organ, where that's going to be very prolonged, and as long as you keep the note held down, it's going to continue to play. And if you just have nothing but those types of sounds, it's going to be hard for the listener to distinguish instruments from one another, just because they share a very common tonality and character. So yeah, that's what I would say for this beat. Cool idea. It felt somewhat Middle Eastern, but yeah, just a small little thing like that might help in terms of playing around with different types of sounds and understanding that not everything needs to be a very prolonged sustained sound. That might help your beat out. All right, let's go for another 20 minutes because my voice is fading very quickly. So another 20-25 minutes. Maybe we'll go until quarter after. I don't know, guys. Here we have a rich guy. Ooh. Markel Wiley says he uses Hugo Boss. So let's listen to his billionaire 1%er beat here, Miami 80. And let's see what the chat's saying for a second here. Nothing really. So let's take a listen. right, that was Mark Hill's beat there. I can see why he's a 1%er, man. Making big money with these beats. I really like this beat. I think OK Ralph says fire fire. Bridge came like a minute too late in my opinion. The elements are really nice. A bit of good mixing, and this will sound fire AF. So to me, I think there's some people that are saying this beat felt a bit amateur. I think that mostly has to do with how it was mixed. In terms of how it was built and the beat maker's job here, I think he did a great job. In terms of adding different layers into the beat and making sure everything fit, I at first thought this was for sure a sample, but as soon as he started taking certain elements out, adding new ones in, everything constantly felt fluid. And so I think he did a great job on that front. In terms of sound selection as well as musically what was happening, I think everything really tied in together. So great job in that regard. Like I mentioned, I thought it was a sample for sure just because everything fits so well. And to me, that is a good sign that this producer knows how to add different elements into their beat that actually do work together and fit. Like NYC Songman said, the beat was also dynamic. It had different sections into it, or just different sections in it. The beat had its own unique timing signature that isn't commonly used for trap beats. You sort of played around with the rhythm of the hi-hat where it was very sort of 4x4, and then you played around with different rhythms throughout the beat on that front. And then obviously the guitar had the, I don't know if it's 3/4, 6/8, it's probably the exact same thing. I would say that, like I mentioned right off the bat, some people are saying that the beat sounded a little bit amateur. I think, again, that's just the mixing. If you just grabbed a soft clipper and put that on top of the master and just boosted the beat up a tiny bit and compressed the entire thing a tiny bit, I think everything would just quickly glue together and the beat would just sound a lot more full, and everything would just feel a lot more professional. I think that's the big culprit, I'll say, with this beat. In terms of the actual music production, this was really, really good in my opinion. Great job to Mr. Wiley here. Sounds like he knows what he's doing with beat making. I can't really point out anything that felt horribly wrong or anything that needs addressing. So yeah, just try that technique out. Add a little bit of compression onto the master, or saturation, using, well, I guess saturation is a form of compression. Either one, use one of those tools on your master, and I think you'll be liking the results. So we'll do one more keyword here, my loves. And like I mentioned, the next stream is going to be on Wednesday in the evening time. So it's going to start around this time on Wednesday. That's going to be my last one for some time. So make sure you're there. Maybe I'll have my shirt off. I don't know. I don't know. Here is the last keyword, and we'll go through those beats. As you guys can hear, my voice is starting to go, so I'm gonna do the last spiel here. I really do think my course can be of great help to a lot of you guys. If you don't know what you're doing wrong in your beats, head over to betterbeatmaker.com. I have the full curriculum up there. I also have a free preview of one video. If you want to quickly see what it's all about, head over to the curriculum and you can see there's one of them that says preview. Watch that video, and if you feel like there's good information in that video, I really do think that this course can help you out. It addresses every single part of the beat making process, and where a lot of beat makers go wrong, and they don't know what they're doing, and sometimes it can take years and years to figure out what you're doing wrong. This course is meant to make sure you guys sort of don't make those mistakes, and you sort of speed up your beat making experience by years, hopefully. It's basically every single thing that I've learned in my 10 plus years of making beats all condensed into one space, whether it is actually beat making, mixing and mastering, or marketing. You'll also get access to samples, drum kits, as well as the exclusive Better Beat Maker community, because, as I mentioned, this is going to be one of the very last streams on my YouTubery, and then we're going to switch over to course members only, just because I want to focus on helping Better Beat Maker members improve, because they paid for it. So if you're interested, there are 2 payment plans. So that is the last spiel of the night. Let's listen to a few more beats here, and then what I'm gonna do is eat some chicken parm. You know what? Let's start off with Corbin Gruthius. He likes cheap shit, and I'm not a big fancy boy either. I just got 2 new sweaters. Guess where I bought them from? The same website that I buy my protein from. They were like $20 a pop. And I was like, you know what? I don't need fancy clothing to get the bees buzzing, if you know what I mean. Gentlemen, Fog of War, 97 BPM. Here we go. All right, that was Corbin's beat. Red Octane in the chat. Okay, Ralph says he really likes the flute. Compression and tape saturation on the master would transform this whole sound, says Hyako. Eugene says Sue. I don't know what that means. Maybe a pad or something. More background, says Grout. So my takeaway with his beat is that you did a great job of adding additional layers and making the beat dynamic. When I first heard the beat, it sounded like a simple piano, and I was like, uh-oh, where's this going to go? Is it just going to be the exact same piano playing over and over again, the simple melody? But you added more and more layers into the beat, and I think you did a really good job of making everything really tie in together. I'm really impressed on that front. A lot of the people in the chat are saying it's just a small issue of saturation and compression. So I believe, yeah, you are a course member. So in one of the videos or late in the first section, I talk about why saturation can be so helpful for this exact problem. Some people mentioned a solution being like adding a pad into the beat, filling up space somehow, some way. Watch that part of my course and you'll see why saturation, which can create some harmonic generation, can be a great way to make the beat sound more full without cluttering it by adding more and more instrumentation. And I think that is one of the reasons why saturation can be a huge help with this beat. And I tend to agree with a lot of people in the chat in terms of it just being a small issue of, slap on a compressor saturator on the master and this beat might end up being transformed and sounding a lot more full. This really does feel to me like one of those situations where it's just gluing everything together, making everything sound louder, and this beat is going to end up sounding relatively complete. What I would also say, one small thing that you might want to think about, you had a couple of different pianos in this beat. One of them was the sort of high-end, sort of the higher frequency piano that was a little bit dry. And then you had the lower end piano that came in here and there, and it was very reverby. The issue is that the low frequency piano had a lot in the low end. And so I think that might be another means that you can think about exploring adding more presence into this beat. If you took that piano and made that more dry, the sort of lower mid-tones would be a little bit more present and the beat would end up sounding a little bit more full, because that might be one of the reasons why this beat didn't sound as full as it might need to, because you sort of had that missing frequency. And so if you made that piano drier and then you took that main piano, the sort of higher frequency sounds, higher frequency notes, and you made that a little bit more reverby and used that as the tool to fill up space in terms of the depth and the stereo space, that might be another way that you can think about addressing this issue. I'm not 100% sure whether that's going to work, but try it out. Just maybe see if that helps. But I think overall, just like Sean G said, saturation imaging, that might be a good idea. Yeah, so my voice is going, guys. I'm going to do 2 more beats. Oi! My back's hurting too. Hold on, guys. Let's put the massager on for these last couple beats. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Alright, let's listen to Logan Frank's beat. He's a Tommy Hilfiger lover. FL Mobile type beat here. Smoky. Let's take a listen. Oh yeah, that was Logan Franck from Francais. His iPhone beat there. Interesting, very interesting beat. I think I share a lot of the same sentiments as the chat. K Beat says, imagine if he switched to PC. I feel like that's my biggest takeaway with this beat as well. This is really impressive that it was made on the phone because, like, especially with the sampling, it was very well done. A lot of the different, I guess, the beat was very well put together. All the right sounds were used. I think the big issue is that these are a lot of just phone sounds. They're not very high quality sounds. Jaco in the chat, really, I think he and I were on the same page with this beat. For one, in terms of getting into more detailed analysis with this beat, the organ, it was a good choice, but I think picking an organ that has more modulation, that has a little bit more movement to it, would have helped this beat for one. But again, the reason why that this producer couldn't do that was because they were on their phone. But like, if instead of using one of the stock FL organs, if you went to something like Expand, you probably could have found an organ that just fit a little bit more better and sounded a little bit more natural. I think same thing with what Grout mentioned, adding saturation to the 808 would have helped bring a little bit more presence as well. I think there's a tiny bit of presence missing in the sort of low mid range, so whether that would be filled by adding saturation to the 808, or possibly I think the sample might have been a bit too filtered, so maybe reeling back on how much was cut in the low end. But nonetheless, I think this was a really commendable job. I think this producer, I'd really love to hear what they can do on an actual full computer with better quality sounds and more functionality. I think they got something going here. It's just it seems like a very beat that was limited by technology, which is unfortunate, because there are lots of good ideas in here. It just felt like it was limited by having to use FL mobile. So yeah, last beat of the night. Let's listen to You know what? Jaco has been coming around for quite some time, and he and I were on the same page tonight. Jaco's beat, the last one of the night. Once again, guys, thank you for coming. It really does mean a lot, and you're all brave dudes for submitting your beat and wanting feedback. Lots of people are probably too timid and afraid of putting their music out there. The fact that you guys are, it really does show that you have what it takes in that regard to actually do this thing, because it's going to require all of us to actually put ourselves out there to some degree or another, and those that don't never get anywhere. So respect to you guys for actually putting yourselves out there. The next stream is on Wednesday. It's going to be at around this time, half an hour earlier, but on Wednesday, the last one that I'm going to be doing for quite some time. BetterBeatMaker.com. Head over there. I really do recommend it. There's lots of people in the chat that are members, and they have very nice things to say. If you want an unbiased opinion, join the Discord. Ask some of them if you want an opinion that isn't from me, whether you feel that this course is good for you. I'm very confident that they will say thumbs up. So, Jaco, let's listen to your beat. Thank you once again for coming, guys. All right, that was Jaco's beat there. Very cutesy, very it's like a baby lullaby if it sells crack or something. So I think I share what a lot of people said in the chat. NYC Songman says, different enough to be memorable. I'm taking DMT to this. So what I'd say is that for one, the 808, I'm not sure whether it was just like a bad sample, but there are some times when it just didn't feel like it fit in the beat. So whether you want to try swapping out the 808, it's just hard for me to hear, or whether some of the wrong notes were just completely used, but sometimes it just felt like what was happening in the low end was a bit of a mess. Salim said it was a bit much going on down there. There were times when there were just constantly 808s playing. So I think maybe swapping out the low end and controlling for it might be one thing. I think you did a really great job with the percussion. There's really unique sounds that were used in this beat overall. And just like NYC Songman says, very memorable. So on that regard, really well done. I preferred when the beat sort of minimized. At certain points, it felt like there's way too much going on in the beat for a lot of it, where like most of the beat felt like it would have been a hook. So if I scroll back here, like that was for most of the beat. That feels like it fit for a hook, whereas if I just may go scroll over here, like I feel that type of amount of sounds, as well as I guess layers playing at simultaneously, would have been better for a verse section. So I sort of feel like making that type using that section for the most of the beat, and then going back and forth, making the hook the larger part. So yeah, you guys are zooted right now on that DMT. So yeah, that's what I'd say with this beat. Really unique, very memorable. I think sort of reeling back with how much is going on in this beat for most of it might be a good idea, but nonetheless, really cool, unique direction there. Jaco, like I said, very cutesy type of beat. I can see this being used by I can't remember the artist's name. I don't know why I even started that sentence. If I knew going in, I don't even know that artist's name, but I start to say that sentence anyways. Anyways, whatever. That's it for the show. We went 2.5 hours this time. Tune in Wednesday. It's going to be the last stream for quite some time. There will be kisses. There will be hugs. We'll have some special guest appearances. Maybe Matt Damon will show up. Maybe Martin Scorsese. I know I'll call them, see if they're available. If not, though, you're going to get me. So hopefully I see you guys there. Big hugs and kisses. Thank you guys once again for showing up. And keep the peace. I don't know why I did that. Goodbye, everyone.